Tuesday, May 6th. I'm Adam Walsh, and this is The Signal. Today on the show, a conversation about service, volunteering, community connection, and national pride, all through the lens of Canada, a.k.a. Kinsmen and Kinnette clubs. We'll talk to folks right across the province for the show, folks. And here's where you come into this conversation. As you listen, what's the state of volunteerism in your community? How has that changed over the years? And that concept of service. If you want to get in touch with us, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Or if you want to type out an email for us that we can read later, thesignal@cbc.ca, right? If there's something you really want us to know about for volunteering in your community, that idea around service, how things have changed for better or for worse, get email, you can call us, or you can text us, 709-327-8206. Joining me here, I've got three folks in studio, and we're also making some calls today to some, like I said there in my intro, to people in other parts of the province, all connected to Canada. Craig White is here, St. John's Kin Club. Is it Vice Governor, Craig?
Yes, it is.
Vice Governor, all right. And also former Vice Principal of Holy Spirit High School.
Yes.
We knew each other years ago.
Yes.
It's always nice for, you never know in life. I didn't think in like 97, 98 when I was in school, we'd end up in a radio studio talking about something completely different. But here we are. And also my former wrestling coach.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for the good wrestling tips there, Craig. We've got Ibrahim Essam here. Ebo, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself, Adam?
Good. And Peter Noel, St. John's Kin Club. How you doing?
Hey, Adam.
All right, guys. So here's the easy bit it's all easy for the show, for the conversation. You're talking about yourselves and volunteerism. So before we get into who you are and Kin Canada, the simple question, Eva, we'll start with you. Why volunteer?
Well, it's a matter of looking around your community, right? Even if it's on the micro level, let's say people in your general community, let's say Fecker Drive, Cowan Heights. Seeing their lives slightly better by your work, even though you expect nothing in return, that's what it matters to me. That's the whole point. Just putting in your input and effort for the betterment of others' lives, regardless of what you get back, physically, of course. To me, that's what volunteering is, right? That's the importance of it.
How old are you?
I'm 19 almost.
19. And this is part of today's conversation too, everyone, right? As we talk to people across the province with Kinsmen or Kinnette clubs, we're also having, and this is where you come into it, right? This intergenerational discussion around this importance, right? Craig, why volunteer?
I guess, without sounding too trite about it, it's more about, giving back.
Yeah.
I've received a lot over the years. I didn't have a lot growing up, but I did have people who volunteered to help me get involved in cadets. I was coached by numerous volunteers, a lot of them teachers, of course, but lots of volunteers. And then as I grew older, I think it's, again, this notion of giving back and helping out in the community, because you can't expect government to do everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the services that volunteers provide are very, very important, but there's no way that they could ever be funded by government.
No. Right. So it's about community coming together and looking at, well, what gaps do we have? How can we help each other? How can we work together to make these places stronger?
Yeah, and it's building on what Ebo said. It's about creating this ripple effect where you help somebody and you make their day a little better. They're able to help somebody and be nicer to someone else, and that just has that ripple effect to creating a society that we all want to live in.
Peter.
Well, for me, I grew up in a family of volunteers. My mom and dad were involved in the Lions Club, in the Legion, in the church, so it was almost expected of us. All my family are volunteers. My brother and sisters are still involved, whether it's in church or in the Legion, and so it sort of came naturally to get involved in organizations. I think I was 19 when I joined the Legion in Carabinier, and and when I finished university, during university, I was involved with the student union. when I got involved in the political world, when I first went out into the workforce, I sort of was looking for something.
Yeah.
My sister and my brother-in-law had been in Kinsmen and Kinnette in Carbonear, and I started talking to somebody who was in our Kinsman Club. And he convinced me to come along and get involved. But, you know, the reality is for everything I've put in, I've gotten a ton back. And, you know, when I look at my current life, you know, most of my closest friends I met through volunteering. Most of the people that, you know, we socialize, reach out to, most of the contacts I have, most of the success I've had probably in life have come through being a volunteer and being involved in certain organizations.
I'm looking at the list. I'm assuming it's, you know, fairly up to date, but for kin clubs, kinsmen clubs, Kinette clubs in the province, right? Look, Botwood, Bridgeport, St. John's, Corner Brook, Goose Bay, 2 in Goose Bay, Lassie, Notre Dame, Notre Dame Kinette Club in and around like Lewisport area, Marystown, Paradise, Grossmore, there's a nice number here, right? It goes right across the province. So this is provincially. Who can talk about like just Kin Canada and nationally? What the look is here? Go for it, Craig.
Well, I mean, like all service organizations, we've experienced a significant decline in volunteers over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, we're going from memberships of more than 12,000, and today we're in the almost 4,800 range. So across Canada. You know, that's in 362 clubs all across the country. The national is organized into districts, which more or less follow provincial boundaries, with a couple of exceptions. One of them being Atlantic Canada. We're all one district, and then each of those districts are broken down into zones and then into clubs. So in Atlantic Canada, we got 48 clubs. In Newfoundland and Labrador, we have 18 clubs.
18 clubs. What does it say to you? And I think there could be a couple of reasons, right? Like I'm thinking demographics as part of it, but it's more than that reduction in a number. What does it say to you about where things are at when it comes to volunteering and service nowadays?
Yeah, things have changed so much. You know, like I joined over 35 years ago. And when I joined Kinsman Club of St. John's, when organizations needed help, they came to service organizations, Rotary Lines, you know, Kiwanis, all those, to get help. But now if you want to volunteer, if you have a cause in mind, if you know, whether it's fighting cancer or cystic fibrosis or healthcare or anything, you can actually go join that organization because they all have professional fundraisers and they have their own blocks of volunteers, whereas one time they used to come to us. So there's a lot less people who need a service organization to get involved and help. I think it's part of it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes is what they don't understand is the case, you know, like in terms of what a service organization can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they see it just as going out and volunteering their time. I don't think they see the other pieces that, you know, what you get back from it.
Anyone else on those points? Go for it.
On the opposite end of it, I've only been in organizations prior to this where it's directly linked to, let's say, Eastern Health. When I was there at the gift shop, they have their own set coordinated people that would help run it. And that's been on the go since in the 70s. Other organizations in Newfoundland specifically, like let's use Rotary example, right? As he brought up earlier. They're looking for They're looking to help out an organization specifically upon either request or they notice some sort of deficit in some part of the year, like Christmas, where they could have they could request goods, right? As we continue throughout the years, these organizations have their own little groups. That's not to say that they don't want external organizations, but it makes the people who are in those external organizations oftentimes now. How do I phrase that one? Oftentimes looking for a place to go, right? Yeah. Is that to say they're not needed anymore? Absolutely not. As we're losing volunteers at all ages and all demographics, right? In my case, students, it's harder for these volunteer organizations to actually gain traction toward their events, fundraisers, and at the end of the day, help the people out, help the people in need that they had begun with to begin with.
And Craig, you're going to say?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are willing to volunteer, but they're just not willing to volunteer on that long-term basis where I'm going to be one of the people who shows up every couple of weeks or monthly and sits down and does the business of planning a fundraiser, getting the license, making sure the funds are collected properly and then distributed accordingly. So there's a lot of that. And then it comes down just to the economy where, you got two people working, there are kids involved in everything. You got mom and dad's taxi going 24/7. Yeah. So there's not a lot of time left over to do that long-term commitment.
No, and heaven help them if they're hockey parents, right? Like just out all the time. And so how do they carve out time for that to then try to join a service organization in this bigger idea of giving?
And even on the student level, right?
Yeah.
It's harder for students to make these commitments despite their workloads.
Yeah.
Just at Holy Heart, for example, that's why I had gone through with Rotary Interact. It was harder to gain consistent traction, even though we had volunteers in a pool. During the planning preparation process, it's pivotal if we have people there who can spread out the workload.
Yeah.
And yes, on the exact day we initiate the events, they're there. But the actual process toward it is oftentimes routine and maybe a struggle for people to make commitments to, and that's completely fine. It's workloads, external factors, jobs, but as things continue, it gets harder for these people, including myself at times, to make these consistent commitments.
Great.
Yeah, I think also people get caught up on that word commitment. You're not getting married.
Yeah.
Your life changes and you ebb and flow. I've been involved for a little over 30 years. My involvement has fluctuated over the years. It's been a lot more probably in the last 15 years than it was in the 10 years prior to that when I was working and busy a lot more busy with work. So it's not that. Our philosophy basically is you work, your family and your work comes first, and when you've got something left over, then you give that to your kin. Yeah. You give that to your club and to your community. But you can do that in short term as well.
Peter?
Yeah, I think so. Some of us, when we joined, it became our social network as well, right? And you talk about like the hockey parents and the soccer parents, and they formed their own social network. So again, the need is not there the same. And so, and you're right, people are so much busier. I've had the benefit of talking to people like John Crosby, who most people in this province would know, certainly if you're my vintage. And John Crosby was a past president of our Kinsmen Club.
Right.
And I talked with him, and Mrs. Crosby was I think the third Kinette president in Newfoundland. And I talked to them about their days, and their lives were so much different, right?
Oh, it's a completely different universe. Eh?
Yeah, and that became their social network. It became, our Kin Canada started when, Hal Rogers, who was our founder, came back from the First World War. And he missed that camaraderie. Yeah. And he went to join Rotary, by the way, and they wouldn't take him because back in those days, they would only take one person from each profession.
Oh, really?
And his father was a plumber, I think. And so they already had a plumber, so he couldn't join. And his father said to him, well, sure, start your own. Yeah. And he did. And that's how Kin Canada
work? Yeah.
Our club started right as the Second World War was starting. And, so our charter was, I got it here in front of me, I think it was August. And, August. And the war started a month later. And, wow. A lot of the first projects were about helping soldiers. But when a number of them came back, a lot of the guys that served with my dad in the 166 that were from St. John's joined the Kinsmen Club of St. John's because they came back and they wanted that camaraderie, they wanted that social network. I think there are other places to get it now, but I think that, if people reach out to organizations, service organizations, they'll find that there's a whole lot more there than they were expecting.
Well, when we say other, because and earlier in the conversation we talked about depending on all these different groups that do fundraising, whether it could be for cancer, it could be for different, you name it. Yes, fundraising mechanisms, and then we talk about service organizations, but and the populations or the membership decreasing, and how this is such a different place and time. I just wonder, even though it's a different world, with everyone being busy and also just the politics of today, are people kind of step back? Like, are people more, as I step back from my microphone, are people more alone today? And is there room to usher in more folks into these types of organizations for the benefit of community, even though it looks like this is perhaps on the wane overall? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think fellowship is one of the things that we were founded on, as Peter said.
Yeah.
And fellowship is a huge part of what we do. When we're doing our projects, we're having fun. It's hard work often, but we're enjoying it. Like it's there's no one who shows up to a project and says, "Oh, other than I'm tired, I'm not." Nobody says, "I wish I didn't come here." Everybody enjoys that. So I think there's opportunity for that. That's one of the reasons why, like EBO represents our newly formed campus kin club. And at the university, where any post-secondary student in the area who wants to join can be part of that and get that kind of fellowship, and it offers that as one of the advantages for students who are coming into Memorial for the first time or into St. John's for the first time away from home. They have the opportunity to meet with similarly minded young people who are going to get together for a cause, and they're going to become friends.
Yeah.
And as Peter said, lifelong friends.
And especially if, like, for what you're saying, right? And Ivo, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if you are, I mean, you went to Holy Heart, right?
Correct.
But then you can have someone coming in from rural Newfoundland and Labrador looking for connections. You can have like newcomers, right? International students or students from across Canada coming into university, all looking for something. It's like, well, we want to give back a little bit. You know, it's nice to have friends. And this is like part of it, right?
Exactly, that's the main goal. Like, on top of obviously the community and volunteering part of it, it's always nice to network within the university, right?
Yeah.
People from different streams. Like, I would never have met some of the people I met for volunteering today, right? Like, I am not an engineering person, but man, are those people fun, right? They're funny. Some of my best friends are from engineering, but don't put me through a lecture with all them.
Yeah.
They're lovely people, nevertheless.
Yeah.
And volunteering has brought that to bring us here, right? Different people from different communities, different backgrounds, almost completely, on one shared goal, right? Whether it's serving, let's say, as we brought up earlier, the fight against cancer, whether it's serving literally the community in terms of food banks, etc. And that's all we can offer.
I remember, I did an arts degree, but my engineering friends were a fair bit of fun when I was at MUN. Great old department there with some of the engineers being produced. Fun forward, but also good studiers. Let's go to the phones. I said we would talk to folks across the province. Well, we're going to start with Cory Sheppard with Corner Brook Kinsmen. Hey, Cory, how you doing?
Hey, not too bad. How are you guys?
Good. You know, hanging out. It's a windy day in St. John's, but there's a blue sky, so we've got that much going for us. Tell us about Corner Brook Kinsmen and what the club's up to.
Hey, well, we're just about winding down now our 24-25 kin year. We actually just had our founding night a couple weeks ago, April 1st. 53 was our club's charter night.
Oh, right on.
So we are just getting ready to, this coming Monday, our new executive will be elected for the upcoming 25-26 kin year. And, steady planning with summer projects and into the fall and winter projects.
What types of projects are you planning? What are you up to?
Oh, my goodness, how much time do we have? In the summer months, the ones coming up, we will have a charity golf tournament at the Bloomington Golf Course here in Corner Brook. City of Corner Brook is hosting some Jigs and Wheels festival, so we usually shut down West Street and have an antique car show, as well as we will host the beer garden in Margaret Water Park on behalf of the city's entertainment. Then we do our fall stuff coming up. We will have a curling bonspiel, which we just had our first one last October, and we're hoping to continue that on and welcome teams from across the island. And then we do our annual Christmas parade for the city, and dart tournaments, and oh my goodness, craft fairs, you name it. We're involved with a lot.
What's the size of? I mean, it sounds like a really healthy organization in Corner Brook. What's the size? Like, how many members do you have?
We currently have 25 members. We grew four members from last year, which is a bonus. And we are always opening up the doors to anybody that wants to join or come in and sit on a meeting and see what Kin family is all about.
Sorry, go ahead.
We welcome new members because with new membership comes new ideas as well, and more fellowship and more friendships.
Right. How long have you been doing this for?
This is actually my 5th year with the Kinsmen Club in Corner Brook. Prior to that, I served 4 years on my small community in Irishtown on council, but I enjoyed that. But I got to say, nothing compares to the fellowship and the fun that we're having with the Kinsmen Club.
So what got you in? Like, what was the, who was it? Someone recruited you? Were you looking around? How did that work?
I was sort of looking around, and a friend of mine told me that I knew he was involved with Kinsmen, and I asked him what nights do they meet, and he invited me to the club, and basically I wanted to join because I wanted to help others. It's all about, I guess, like that pay it forward adage that everybody hears. You do good for others, and hopefully they'll see the good and want to help others as well.
So then, long term, right? What do you think for when you look at what the Corner Brook Kinsmen are doing with your membership, and also the increase in numbers recently? Long term, what do you see for like the impact that your type of an organization can have on the city of Corner Brook and surrounding areas?
Well, it's hard to say because right now we do have a phenomenal relationship with the city of Corner Brook. We're great partners. When the city wants to have a project or an event on the go, they will reach out to us. The Kinsmen Club of Corner Brook, it's hard to say what the future holds, but I can only see us continuing to grow stronger and stronger, whether it's in membership or fellowship or friendships, and getting out there, right?
Cory, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to come on the show to talk about Corner Brook Kinsmen. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, Cory Sheppard there. Go for it. Thoughts, Craig?
Cory's club is one of 2 clubs that have more than 20 members, or one of 3 clubs, I think, that have more than 20 members across the province. Across the country, and certainly within Atlantic Canada, the average clubs are about 13 members.
Right.
So, but there's still a lot of work that gets done with 13 members. I mean, Cory and them are great. I've attended meetings at their club. Definitely a great group of fellows, and the work they're doing is. I don't think the city would be able to pay for it. They couldn't afford it. The work that they do.
Well, and this comes to your earlier point, right? Like there's governments of all levels. There's spending, there's programs, there's things that get done, but then there's also gaps within communities. And like what Cory was saying, Santa Claus Parade, I heard like a antique car show, a beer garden came up, and plus fundraising activities, all of that within one community.
They also run a park, by the way, an RV park, which he forgot to mention. An
RV park?
One of my favorite parks. It's I forget what it's called, Kinsmen Park, but it's going up the North Shore there, just as you take the highway to North Shore. One of my favorite places to stop when we do a lot of RVing, and of course I can't stay in Corner Brook area without staying there because I'm afraid the boys would find out. And
once word gets around,
big trouble, right?
Once we talk about all the great stuff Kinsmen do, but on the revenge side,
yeah, there you go.
Pretty brutal. You're listening to The Signal. I'm Adam Walsh. It's a conversation today about service, volunteering, community connection, national pride, all through the lens of Kin Canada. You might know it as Kinsmen clubs, right? Kinette clubs. Today, we're talking to folks across the province, across generations, all trying to make a difference. The question for you as you're listening to this show, it could be for now or later, what's the state of volunteerism in your community? How has that changed over the years, right? Or do you have a great example for us? Or do you want to talk about how things have changed and perhaps there are gaps? It's all there for you. The numbers to call, 709-722-7111, 1-800-563-8255. Text us, 709-327-8206, or email thesignal@cbc.ca, because the thing with this show, the conversation, always continues. If you think of something tomorrow, dart us a note. Here with me in studio, we've got Craig White with St. John's Kin Club. We've got Ibrahim Essam with St. John, or sorry, with the I was going to say St. John's, but you're actually with the Memorial, the Kin Campus, right?
Correct.
Kin Campus, Memorial University. Peter Noel, St. John's Kin Club. Joining us on the line, Tina Bennett, Notre Dame Kinettes. Hey, Tina.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Not bad. It's a Tuesday, sun shining. Can't ask for much more. Tell us about your club?
Well, we are a Kinette club in Notre Dame, which is surrounding Lewisport and area. We have about 15 members. We're very active. We donate lots to Children's Trust, MS, CF, Janeway, Ronald McDonald, Cancer Foundations, local minor hockey, figure skating, Air Cadets, Girl Guides, breakfast school programs, and individuals in need. We donate lots and lots every year. In order for us to get that money, we do fundraising through our bingos. We have that once a month, and we do like moose burger sales. We do probably those with the Kinsmen as a joint project, and we probably do 3 or 4 of those a year. And that's usually how we fundraise to help out all these people.
What's the response from all this help? Like, what's the community response from what you do?
Oh, the community respects the Kinsmen and Kinnette Club here. We've donated millions and millions over the years. Our club is like 50 years old.
Right.
So the Kinsmen and Kinnette both, and we've always been very active.
How long have you been volunteering for?
Volunteering?
Yeah.
I'd say 30 plus years, but in the Kinnette, I've been probably 20 plus.
So 30 plus years total, 20 plus with Kinettes. How have things changed from when you first kind of walked in the door to now?
Oh, dear.
Or have they? Or has it been consistent, right? Sometimes it's just a healthy organization's a healthy organization.
Yeah, pretty much. It has changed a bit in like responsibility ways and accountability, which is for the better, of course. But that's pretty much the only change that I can see. Everybody is there to help each other, lend a helping hand wherever they can.
What's it given you? Or like, what have you gotten from this over the years?
Personally,
yeah,
I do it just for the purpose of giving back to the community. Like I said, I've been a volunteer for like 30 plus years, and it gives me some comfort to know that I'm helping out others. As the saying goes, a little helps out a lot.
Yeah, right.
Or a little goes a long way. I'm sorry.
Well, and it sounds like whether it's talking Corner Brook earlier with Cory Sheppard, talking to you now, like when you've got such a healthy club doing all of this work, that the impact that can have for community strength and everyone's kind of well-being seems readily apparent.
Yes. It is. Yes.
So what's coming up for the summer?
Summer we don't usually do very much. We kind of tend to step back a little. Everybody is on holidays and kids are out of school, so it's hard to get everybody together. But if things need to be happening, then we just have our executive get together and do what we need to do. As for I think we got a local bingo during Lewisport week here that's in August. And as for that, I think that's it for the summer.
Excellent.
Like I said, we usually kind of just take a break because we start back in September and we're going strong then until June.
Right on. And is there anything coming up now? It's June. So June, what is it? We're in May. What else is coming up? Is there anything coming up now before the end of June, or is it just a matter of wrapping things up before the summer, kind of taking it easy a bit?
Yeah. Now we'll probably do another moose burger sell.
Okay.
And we'll probably we're going to have another bingo, and that's usually the last Monday of every month. So that's usually what we do.
Well, good luck with bingo, and also with the Moose Burger sales, Tina. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, you're kindly welcome.
All right, Tina Bennett there, Notre Dame Kinnette Club. Looking back to the guys in the studio, there's echoes, right, from what Cory's saying, what Tina's saying, and what you guys have been saying just about this community involvement. Now, whether that's the selling moose burgers to the bingo, to you name it, right, or operate an RV park, but it's all this community involvement that seems awfully important. Any thoughts on what either from Cory or what Tina have said?
I think that's getting involved in those projects. The ones I enjoy the most are the ones where you go out in the community and you're interacting with people and you'll find, especially I think more so in rural communities, because the service clubs tend to be a lot more important there, and there tends to be fewer of them. Right now, obviously the populations are smaller, but like I know growing up in Carbonear, the service organizations were everything. It's a little tougher in St. John's. But in communities like Mount Pearl, I know my wife is in the Mount Pearl Kinettes, and half the council is in her Kinette club.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So they're and the mayor and council, because it's a smaller place, there's a lot less organizations there, and but when you can get out in the community and interact with people and see the benefit sometimes of the work you do, that's I think when it really starts to hit home how important service organizations are, and sometimes how important the work you're doing is to that community.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't really recognize how much you're doing, and you may not look at it from your own individual club's amount of fundraising or services that you were able to do. But when you look at it a little bit broader, that's when you start really getting a vision. For example, we've got 92 Kinsmen and Kinnettes in our zone, that's eight clubs within here to Marystown. And we just did our service banquet last weekend, and collectively we raised almost $90,000, which is about little over $900 a person.
Yeah.
With it, and to that, it's almost 8,000 hours of service, of volunteer work in the community, which if you're paying that at a minimum wage, you're looking at $120,000. So I go back to what I said about with Cory and Cornwall. The amount of work that is done by volunteers, and not just in Kinsmen and Kinnettes, but all volunteers, there's no way you could afford it. And that's why it's so important. And that's why it's so important that people pick up that mantle and come after us. And because as Peter and I, we're getting into the senior level of membership now. I don't see a time when I'm going to leave the club.
Yeah. This
is a part of my life now. It's kind of like if you get into exercising and you get into a regime, if you stop that because you're sick or you can't do it, you really, really miss it.
Yeah.
And I know I can speak for Peter and pretty much every other Kinsman and Kinnette out there. If you miss 2 or 3 meetings in a row because you're on holiday or you're working or something happens that you can't make it, you really feel not just left out, but you miss the people who you usually spend time with.
Where does I mentioned at the start of the show, I said national pride, and I say this as we've got the Prime Minister down in D.C. talking to the President of the United States, and in this time we're at now, patriotism, national pride, thoughts about what it is to be Canadian have been front and center in a lot of conversations. Then I look at Canada. Across the country, and looking on the website, right, the national pride was there. Where does that come into it, and how does that work, and what are your thoughts on it?
Just briefly, in terms of on a national level, we have to recognize that we are here for each other, right?
Yeah.
As Canadian citizens, as neighbors, we have to support one another, because who knows what they can do down south, right? They can cut their ties and boom. Suddenly, if there's no established communications or links or community, yeah, we're off in a scramble trying to figure out what's the next best thing to do. If we start it now, if I'm actively helping out my community in Cowan Heights, there's a brilliant community group over there in terms of supporting literal families or just an environment as a whole, right? Their role in just the micro level is massive. On the national level, through the Canada organization or different other volunteering service organizations, it's brilliant, right? We can ensure that everyone in our community, in our country, is able to live in a stable, stable manner that ensures that everyone can live comfortably, or at least in respect and recognition by their own neighbors.
Yeah.
And like to prevent in the instance where we lose these connections on the international level.
Craig, you're going to say.
Yeah, you say Canada, but I just want to underscore the fact that we are an all-Canadian organization.
Yeah.
There are no affiliates in any other country. The only country that ever had a club was Newfoundland and Labrador, and that was the Kinsmen Club of St. John's, as Peter was mentioning earlier. But when we look at nationally, we have a national project. We partner with cystic fibrosis to raise money for research. And just as a quick number, since 1964, we've raised more than $50 million across the country.
Right.
And think about that. The average club size is 13. Our club doesn't donate a lot of money every year. We donate usually a couple of $100. But every one of those couple of $100 adds up to millions of dollars in the aggregate. So it's about this sense of pride in terms of supporting each other, having as our motto, serving the community's greatest need. So what it means then is that even though we are all part of the same organization, we all have our own specific focus locally. And a couple of things tie us together. Donating cystic fibrosis nationally within Atlantic Canada to multiple sclerosis research, and in different provinces they have other specific things that tie them together within their districts.
Does it, knowing that it's a national organization and every so often being in touch with folks in other provinces or territories or whatever, what does that do for the concept of thinking about Canada and national pride? And for me, I'll use the reserves as an example. As a young person, my understanding and my thoughts around this country vastly expanded when I joined the reserves, because I got to go to other parts of the country, meet people from from the prairies, from Quebec, from the territories that I would have never been able to meet, and it really changed my thoughts and feeling around Canada. Really, as a young person. What's it like for you guys then to be part of a national organization like this and thinking about the country?
Yeah, I always say one of the greatest things I got out of Canada was the fact that I have friends all across this country. So now it's 25 years ago, but at that time I was hyper involved, and I was deputy governor of the zone, then governor of Atlantic Canada, and then I went on the national board for 3 years, and got to meet people from all over the country. Like-minded people, sometimes not like-minded people.
Yeah, but still all part of the same thing.
All part of the same organization. Got to understand the different sections of the organization, and why. This is the best example. We used to have an age limit.
Yeah.
And we needed to get rid of the age limit because what it meant is that 45, you couldn't hold office. You could stay in the organization, but you couldn't, because we were trying to be this young person's organization. Wasn't working anymore for Atlantic Canada.
No.
I used to always say, but the
45.
The crowd out west were loving it, right?
Yeah.
Because they all had these big clubs full of young people. I used to always joke. I said, "Yeah, it's okay for Alberta. You got all our young people."
Yeah.
Right? Back
Really,
in those
though?
days.
Really?
And so it was tougher for us. So we needed to change that. But by being part of trying to make that change, you get to understand how different parts of the country are different, but yet we all had that same goal in mind, being part of a better Canada. And I truly mean this. It probably made me a better Canadian, being part of this organization because of that, because I got to see and got to understand parts of Canada that I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, when I traveled for work, I would always check to see if there was going to be a Kinsman or a Kin Club meeting in the city or the town where I was. And it's really amazing standing with a group of people singing "O Canada," for example, at the start of a meeting, in a club in, say, Riverview, New Brunswick, where they have 8 members, and in Saskatoon, where they have one meeting I attended there, they had a joint with the Kinettes, and there was over 100 people in the room.
Right.
I mean, that's a sense of pride.
Yeah.
And there was a guest at the table where I was sitting, and you're getting up and it's a little uncomfortable sometimes. And I said, just think about this. This is happening all across this week. This will happen all across the country. So that's a statement, I think, in terms of national pride.
Yeah, and the part I think about too, Peter, was when you mentioned about like-minded or not like-minded people, but you're all part of the same group.
Right.
And that puts you in the same room for conversations that you're not always going to agree with. And with some folks, you will disagree on everything, but you're still part of that same group. And I think there's lessons there for looking into and thinking about in today's climate, given, I mean, look at the national headlines and you'll know what I'm talking about.
I got to go back a little bit to talking about. I always joke that we were kin before we were Canadian.
Yeah.
And because we for a time it became, back in those days, it was called the Kinsmen Clubs of Canada. Then it became the Kinsmen Clubs, or the Association of Kinsmen Clubs, because we joined in 1939, 10 full years before. It's funny, I have a copy of our charter here, and I know we're on radio, so people can't see it, but it's really funny because it says, volunteer group of individuals residing in St. John's in the, above the word province is island of Newfoundland, and then Canada is actually scratched out.
Oh my gosh.
On our charter. This is a copy of our charter document. Our document actually resides at the rooms now where it's being protected and hopefully for forever. But, and it started when, as I understand it, when a couple of Canadians moved to St. John's. They worked with the bank.
Yeah.
They had been part of Kin Canada, and they decided they would like to try to build. And I think our first president, got it here. He was a guy. Where's it to? Dr. Lewis Conroy, but he's not the guy. Anyway, there was a couple of people that moved here. They were bankers, moving around with the banks, started building those bridges.
Right.
And I'd like to think that part of that had to help build those bridges.
For what was to come.
Our club
in 49.
Our club had a boys' club.
Right.
And then when we joined Canada, they became part of the boys' clubs of Canada.
Right.
Right. So it was all about building bridges.
Yeah.
And I think being in any sort of national organization, but I think in Canada in particular, because we are Canadian only, we wear that like a badge of honor. All our stuff has maple leafs on it. All our regalia has like Canadian flags, and I think we all understand that we are part of, the Kin Canada.
Right. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to let me see, Happy Valley Goose Bay. Jeannine Chaulk is on the line. Goose-Happy Valley Kinette Club. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Tell us about the Kinette Club for Happy Valley.
We're just celebrating 50 plus years here in Happy Valley Goose Bay. I still consider myself a newbie member with just 2 years under my belt. We have 7 members. We're small but mighty. We can get things done. And it was interesting to hear Craig speak about the different demographics across Canada, with some being so large and some being so small. So we can relate to those that have the small clubs, and it really takes all members to get things done.
So what brought you in through the door 2 years ago, Jeannine?
I first got involved with Kinette when a good friend of mine, she was already a member, invited me to help out at a few of their events. And then she, asked me to attend a meeting here and there. First, I said, no, I'm just satisfied helping you out. But then I got to really see the bones of what they're doing. And I love my community. I love helping out when I can. So it just kind of made sense to join the organization.
And what kind of stuff are you up to through the run of a year?
Oh, I guess we're mostly known for in the region for our bi-weekly merchandise bingos. And we have a full house every other week. We just had one on Sunday with 80 members there, community members, sorry. We have our faithfuls that will not miss it, and then we have new faces coming in the door. Another event that I'm pretty proud about is our annual Brunch with Santa. It's always a sold-out event. Every dollar we raise goes back into the community, either through our food bank or our local ministerial association, to distribute to those families who need a little extra support around the holidays. It's all about your community and giving back, and that's what I like about it.
When you think about your community in Happy Valley Goose Bay, what is the larger community like? What is Happy Valley Goose Bay for you?
Oh, gosh. It's being in Labrador, we're faced with a lot of obstacles, and we see a lot of need for those that have to travel for medical. We have a lot of requests for assistance to help those who just can't financially meet that dollar amount to get them to their appointments. We see our local food bank struggling at times. We try to help there. We just really want to work together to make this a better community, show people that we can work together to probably not dismiss all the problems, but we can certainly help to alleviate some of the stress.
Yeah, you're trying to work together to try to fill some gaps and to try to help folks out in a community-minded way, right? That concept, that thought around service, right? Like, when did you first start thinking about service and the fact that this is something that really speaks to you and your value set?
I guess it's when I used to start just attending events to help, and I got to see the girls really involved in working and coming up with ideas, brainstorming new ways to fundraise, but also make it fun for the community. We try to focus a lot of our events to families, those with children, a family fun day at our local Kinsmen Park. We had that during our National Day of Kindness Week for Canada. We just always have a focus on serving the community's greatest needs, as Craig said earlier. That's like our motto. We really stick by it, and we just really try to emphasize love for our community and to help wherever we can.
Right. Jeannine, thanks so much. Last question before I let you go, because I'm just curious. How's the weather? How's the weather in Happy Valley Goose Bay today? Did you get that 19-degree day yet?
Oh, it's pretty balmy here. It's supposed to get up to 20 now.
No way.
We are sitting at 21.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I'm going to let you go. Look, thanks for coming on the show. Enjoy that weather out there. And, I appreciate the chat.
No problem.
All right, Jeannine Chaulk there, Happy Valley Goose Bay with the Kinette's Club. Thoughts on what Jeannine was saying? Lots there, right? Seeing whether you want to say issues or folks in need of help or community gaps, whatever it is, and then trying to be there for them, right? Which is, I think, speaks to a lot of the conversation today, whether it's the national bit, across the province, the reason, the raison d'etre for Kinsmen and Kinnette clubs. Go for it.
Adding on to what you said earlier, as well as Craig, with the people who in Happy Valley Goose Bay required, for Jeannine's example, access to primary health care. Right, we have a shortage in rural communities that, like, the government cannot fix, even though they've tried, several times. There's a nurse shortage, primary physician shortage, and even though the government's working on it, there's still something the community can do. In Jeannine's example, brilliant. They're putting their effort toward making sure that people can access these health programs to the greatest extent they can, with alleviation from the government that they can get. Right, it's never perfect, but the role of the community, in this case, the Kins Club over there, brilliant example, right? Able to single-handedly, as a group, make sure this person receives, in maybe in this case, pivotal healthcare for their life.
So how's MUN recruiting going for campus, Kin Campus?
So so the fall semester was a little bit rough. Yeah. And I understand that. The year starts out, etc.
Yeah, lots on the go.
Yes, the winter semester, we got initial traction. However, once again, as things picked up, people died down. And I'm like, maybe there's something else we can do, correct? As the semester starts up again, or if not, maybe during August, we're literally going to people like face-to-face. Yeah. Hey, are you interested in joining a group? And work from there, hopefully.
Yeah, targeted recruiting. Talk to folks. Try to build it up. So, guys, on the older end of the spectrum compared to the younger end to my left here, what do you think of with EBO and the interest when you look at the future for Kinsmen and Kinnette and Kin clubs?
Well, I think it goes without saying, the future of all volunteer organizations it lies in the hands of the young people who are
get them in
coming up
young,
now.
right?
Most schools will have some sort of a volunteer program, after-school programs, fundraising, collecting food for food banks, you name it. When they graduate, as I said, quite often they end up in a new city, new town, busy trying to just survive. They don't get a chance to follow through. But I think if we're able to develop our Kin Campus Club in the vision that we have, not only will you have students who will be coming through and they'll get a chance to continue that volunteerism that they're doing in school, it'll help, as I said, develop that atmosphere or that attitude of, I want to do it. I can't imagine not doing this. I will find the time to volunteer when I become older and I'm trying to make sure that I'm working enough to pay my mortgage. I'll find the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that that you got a group of young people that are wanting to stand up a Kin Campus Club, and I think if they're successful in that they'll get people again that are interested. And once you get bitten by that bug, I think it stays with you. And you might have to go off and do certain things in life, but you'll eventually wander back. I think it's also incumbent on all of our organizations, all our clubs, to make sure we adjust and make sure we change enough to accommodate the different young people and where they are in a different place in their lives, and to make sure that we make it easier for them to be involved and stay involved, and make sure that they get the value out of it. So, I think that's something that we've talked about a lot in the last couple of years, and the fact that we just changed from being a Kinsman Club after 85 years to a Kin Club.
Yeah.
Because we recognize that's where our future lies. We got a lot more people interested. We're growing. I've been lucky because I've been involved in the Kinsman Club, but my wife's in the Kinette Club, so we get to go and do all these things together.
Yeah.
And I think people want a lot more of that these days. So we were just at a conference in Gander, and we were having a few discussions with some of the other clubs, and one of the key things I kept saying, if you're struggling, you need to change.
Yeah.
Keep doing the same thing. You're going to get the same results. So I think it's really important that we make sure that we're very conscious of adapting and changing and making our clubs, our environments more conducive to younger people wanting to be part of that.
Meeting the moment of where we are in 2025 and beyond for the reality of the communities that and how they are now, right? And also how young folks are.
Yeah, and in terms of the younger generation, Ebo came to us when he was in grade 11, looking to join. He wanted to join our club at that point because he was involved in doing this kind of service work. So I'm confident that the interest is there, and I would say to any young person or any person at all that if you join whatever organization you join with friends, bring people along with you. And then you will always have a group there that you can start with, and you can then gradually change from within, because we've got a lot of old habits as, being around 85 years, for example.
Yeah.
We're dusting them off now. We're looking at them and we're examining those through the lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that's where the whole notion of changing to a Kin Club came, because we're now open to all genders.
Yeah.
And the only requirement we have is that you have to be 19 years old to join our club.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
So
Ebo, you had to wait, right? You went over there as a teenager, and they're like, well, you're almost there. You got to get a little older. So there you are now and part of it.
Mm-hmm. Got
Great.
that right.
15 seconds. Final thoughts from you?
It's a lovely day. Thank you for having us out today. I'm glad to discuss volunteering on a scale.
All right. Thanks for coming in. Thank you, guys, for this discussion today. Folks, so we got Ebo there, Essam, Craig White, Peter Noel. Thank you. Everyone else, thanks for listening. And if you got thoughts for us on the show, get in touch. The Signal at cbc.ca. The Signal line for messages 709-576-5260. Coming up tomorrow, we are taking you down the street and into the convenience stores of this province. Why are they important? What role do they play in communities? From quick stop-ins on the way home if you forgot to buy milk, to being the only place in certain communities to get groceries. We'll talk challenges convenience stores face today, tariffs, cost of living, a panel of store owners, and calls right across Newfoundland and Labrador. Cheers.